Wire change on a MIG welding machine, or wire feeding machine. Once your spool runs out, you got nothing coming out the other end. First rule of thumb is best to keep your gun, liner, the entire assembly straight. No kinks, no bends, the least bends possible. Open up your side cover. I already popped my drive feed roller, but you're going to find an empty spool, nothing there. Every welder is different, but there's a set of drive feed rollers. Pop open the tension, and then your wire is free. Take your gun, you need to excavate the remaining amounts of wire that are in from your drive feed roller all the way down your liner up to your tip. Pull the tip off, some pull straight off, some unscrew. You don't need to pull the welding tip off unless it has been burned. You can file that or you can unscrew it. But other than that, there's no need for it. Once this is open, you can take a pair of pliers, you can do it by hand, needle nose works fine, and just start pulling. So this end has a kink on it. See the drive feed rollers here. And I tried to pull through and there's a kink. So we're gonna have to yank that back and clip that off because that will not pull through the gun liner. So this is where a needle nose come in handy, or this is a pair of MIG pliers. So just pull this back a bit. Clip it off. And that should pull right through. It's bent a little, but it should be no big deal. Okay, back to pulling through the gun. Let's grab a piece of it, pull. Like I said, the straighter your cable is, the easier it's going to pull out. Right now I'm kind of curved to be in position to the camera. You just keep pulling and pulling. Now when you go to feed your wire back through, sometimes it doesn't want to go through this tip, and that could be a reason to remove the tip. But I usually leave it in and just see what happens. Take your wire spool off. Everything's connected differently. This one is an easy nut. This is all Harbor Freight welder, Harbor Freight wire. Still meets the AWS standards, so I'm not ashamed of buying wire there. You want the label facing outward, so when you look at the machine, you see the label on the other side, and as you go around the edge here, you're going to see there's a piece of wire stuck right in here. Okay? Now you want your wire to feed straight into this feeder tube. So if you have it down here, spooling off the bottom, that would be label in, because I got this loose wire right here. If I put it on this way, there's no way it would feed in there directly. When you pull this wire out, whether you have to snip it or whatever you do, is don't let it unspool. What I typically do is put it on here first, secure it, and then I continue to pull this wire out, clip the end so it's a clean finished end, and then put it through the feed roller. Doesn't have to be super tight, just enough. Take the pliers. I like these because it gives you more control. Pull this right out, and I got the loose end. Do not let this loose end go, or the whole thing unspools and you have a mess. Clip the clean end. Nice clean end. Now very carefully, do not let this unspool. You got to fish this wire into this feeder tube. Keep it good, couple of pulls. You can help assist and push the roller forward just a bit. Okay. There it is. We pushed it through into the feed roller. And sometimes these align easily. Sometimes they're tricky to align. There's actually a little groove there, and it's per diameter of wire. Typically they'll be stamped on the side. They'll say 035, 023, whatever diameter welding wire you're using. It should be stamped. Sometimes they're variable. Some will be 030 through 035. They're just unscrews. Some are just a quick release push button thing. Every welder's a little bit different. 030 through 035. So if you're having drive problems where you're pulling the trigger and the wire's not feeding right, it's loose or it's chattery or doesn't want to go through, or you're seeing a bunch of metal shavings in here, you have the wrong size feed roller, or your feed rollers are worn out. There's tiny little teeth in there that grip the wire and help push it through. Now remember, it's pushing through a long distance of cable out to the tip of your gun. So it can have problems if everything isn't perfect. So here I just pushed straight through and went right in there. Perfect. Sometimes you got to use your pliers to push it in. If your end is cut a little bit crooked, it will not go in properly. So I only got it in there about an inch. Push this top feed roller down, and this one's just smooth. It just puts pressure on that feed roller. Push that down. Now this is your tension here. Righty-tighty, lefty-loosey. So there's a whole trick to adjusting your tension. Don't want it too tight, because you'll really burn things up on your tip if you have it set incorrectly. So we got this tight. I tighten that. By the way, you should have your machine unplugged while you're doing this. These are hot wires right here, completely hot. Live electricity right there where you're messing around. So if you have your tools in here and you touch, that's potentially 200 volts, whatever you've got going on. Some machines have this cold feed where you can actually push that instead of pulling your trigger. It'll help feed that wire. So let's flip this machine on. Now this is where you want to have your cable as straight as possible, because the end of that wire really likes to bind up inside your gun liner. You just take it out on your floor, just lay it out there as far as possible, straight as can be. Of course, there's going to be a bend somewhere in there. Hit the cold feed button, and what you're going to watch is that your drive rollers are working and that the spool is spinning. If these are sitting here spinning and you hear noise and this isn't going anywhere, your tension's wrong. So you can also do this by pulling the trigger on your gun over at the other end, but it's just convenience on this machine. I'll show you from doing it on the gun side, because you can actually feel the wire coming through the liner and know when it's about to your tip. And as I mentioned, if you don't take the tip off, sometimes it'll get bound up in there. But you can usually feel if it stops. You can just feel the vibration in the gun. It takes a few times, but you'll start to notice it. So here, you are burning gas, or not burning gas, or wasting gas, so you can shut your gas bottle off if you carry that much for this process. So it's off. It actually has arc sensing technology, so it's not wasting. There, you heard it hit. The drive rollers are trying to spin. Yep, the spool's not going anywhere. And that wire just barely popped out. It got stuck for a second. I bumped it a couple times, and then it came out. What can happen if you have these drive rollers too tight, it'll just bind this wire up in here. That's the great thing about having it adjusted just a little bit loose. It'll just slip if it doesn't come through. So now we got our wire all the way through. We can put our messed up gas nozzle back on, but before we do that, I'm going to show you a trick about adjusting the tension. And all you got to do is have a slab of concrete, just point your gun down at the concrete. This may not be as easy because this doesn't have arcs. This has that arc sensing setting on it, but so I'm going to back the wire feed way back off, way back off, 12, 13 turns. Okay, I'm going to point it at the concrete. Zoom in just a bit here. You want to hold it about an inch off the concrete. And if it keeps feeding, that's good. So I'm going to back it off a couple more turns up on the tension. Push it about an inch off the concrete, and now it's slipping. So you can see here I'm pulling the trigger, nothing's coming out. The drive rollers are slipping, and see it's not feeding any wire. So that's too loose. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, just because I know about where I was at. Do it again, and then this time you're also watching the drive rollers and your wire spool. 1 to 2 inches off here is fine. With this wire, it's going to spool up around here. Point toward the concrete, and it should continually push out. There should be no slipping of the drive roller. So they're slipping a little bit. It's hard to tell, but the drive roller is actually spinning a little bit more than that is. But anyways, you want a little bit more tension. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You find that sweet spot to where the wire comes out. The drive roller isn't slipping, and the wire's turning nicely. And you're getting a nice little bend there, not far off the concrete. That's about right. If you find that you burn your tips, and the wire basically gets welded to the tip, you know, when you burn that up, and if you hit the trigger, if this spools up in here, you got it too tight. You don't want that to happen, so just back it off a few turns and get it fine-tuned. But the concrete trick is pretty much the way to go. So you're good here. Throw your gas nozzle back on and you're ready to rock.